Ferrari did not just beat Mercedes. Ferrari found the rule-book weapon that could destroy Mercedes' entire 2026 advantage. For 6 races, Mercedes looked untouchable. Antonelli was winning everything. The W17 had the power, the energy deployment, the straight-line speed, and the confidence of a team that believed it had solved the new era first. Then Ferrari revealed the Macarena wing, a legal rear wing that rotates roughly 270 degrees, flips upside down on the straights, and attacks the exact area where Mercedes had been strongest. But that was only the first hit. Ferrari also pushed the rule change that forced Mercedes' engine advantage to be measured under hot conditions. Then the governing body closed the qualifying energy loophole Mercedes and Red Bull had been using. 3 attacks, 1 target, Mercedes' hidden advantage. And when Hamilton won in Barcelona by 19.5 seconds, the message became impossible to ignore. Ferrari has stopped chasing Mercedes. Now Ferrari is changing the battlefield underneath them. Subscribe to the channel. To understand why Ferrari's reveals scare Mercedes so much, you have to look at what the 2026 rules were supposed to create. A reset, not a small adjustment, not a minor update. A reset so big that every team had to rebuild its thinking from the ground up. New tires, new fuel, new power unit demands, new chassis rules, new active aerodynamics, a completely different way of balancing straight-line speed, cornering grip, and electrical energy. For a team like Mercedes, that kind of reset is usually an opportunity. They do not just build fast cars. They build systems. They read rules carefully. They look for hidden spaces between the sentences. They turn regulation changes into long-term advantages before rivals fully understand what happened. And at the start of the season, it looked like Mercedes had done it again. The W17 did not feel like a normal fast car. It felt like a car designed around the new era's most important moments. The car could leave corners cleanly. It could deploy energy down the straights. It could make rivals suffer exactly when they needed to attack. It had the kind of efficiency that makes a driver behind feel helpless, because even a perfect corner exit is not enough if the car ahead keeps pulling away. That is why Mercedes looked untouchable through the opening stretch. They were not just winning races. They were controlling the shape of races. Russell won the opener in Australia. Then Antonelli began a run that made the championship feel like it was already bending toward Mercedes. China, Japan, Miami, Canada, Monaco, race after race, the silver car looked like the answer to every question the new regulations had asked. Ferrari, meanwhile, looked close enough to create hope, but not close enough to control anything. That was the painful part. The Ferrari was not dead. It was not a disaster. It had real cornering strength. Hamilton and Leclerc could feel a competitive base underneath them. Through technical sections, the car could bite. It could rotate. It could carry speed. It gave the drivers something to believe in. But once the track opened into a straight, Mercedes had the answer. That is the kind of weakness that destroys morale. Because the driver does the hard part first. He survives the corner. He gets the car pointed. He reaches the throttle. He thinks the fight is alive. Then the Mercedes stretches away. Again and again. That was the problem Ferrari had to solve. Not with one ordinary upgrade. Not by simply adding a little more downforce. Ferrari needed a weapon aimed directly at Mercedes' strongest area. Straight line efficiency. That is where the Macarena wing enters the story. At first, the name almost made it sound unserious. A strange nickname. A paddock joke. Something people could laugh about because the concept looked so unusual. But behind the name was one of the most aggressive interpretations of the new rules anyone had attempted. Most teams looked at active aerodynamics and thought in a straight line. Open the wing on the straight. Close it for the corner. Reduce drag, then restore downforce. Ferrari looked at the same rules and asked a much more dangerous question. Where does it say the wing has to stay upright? That question changed everything. The rule required the active aero to move between its positions quickly. It controlled the transition time. It explained what the system had to do. But it did not preserve one old restriction that had existed in the previous drag reduction era. It did not require the open rear wing to behave like a traditional open flap. Ferrari found the gap, and instead of simply opening, the rear wing rotated dramatically, roughly 270 degrees, effectively flipping upside down on the straight. That meant the wing was not just reducing drag. It was trying to create lift, pushing the car into a lower resistance state so it could slice through the air more efficiently. In simple terms, Mercedes had been using the straight like a runway. Ferrari built a wing designed to take the runway away. That is why this mattered so much. If the estimated gain reached even close to 10 kilometers per hour, Ferrari would be attacking the exact place where Mercedes had been hurting them all season. The W17's advantage was built around escaping down the straights. Ferrari's concept was built to stop that escape from being automatic. But the first version was not smooth. And that is important because it proves how bold the idea really was. In China, Ferrari tried the wing and quickly found the car was not behaving the way it needed to. A balance issue caused a high-speed spin, and the team pulled the wing before sprint qualifying. Vasseur admitted Ferrari did not yet know enough about the effects it was having on the car. That was a dangerous moment, because when a radical concept fails early, teams face a choice. Do you abandon it and return to something safer? Or do you keep digging because the rulebook gap is too valuable to ignore? Ferrari chose the second path. They kept developing. They refined the concept. They produced evolved versions. They ran it at Monza in a closed session, with Hamilton and Leclerc gathering data across 200 kilometers of running. And the information from that test changed the timeline. Ferrari moved the race debut forward. That told the paddock something. The wing was no longer just an experiment. Ferrari believed it had found a real direction. Leclerc felt improved stability. Hamilton felt the car was sharper and more sensitive. Those reactions matter because they show the split personality of the concept. It could make the car more dangerous in the best sense, but also more demanding. A sharper car gives a driver performance, but asks for more control. It rewards precision and punishes hesitation. That is exactly the kind of machine Hamilton can turn into a weapon. And once Ferrari committed to keeping the Macarena wing on the car, Mercedes had to understand the bigger threat. This was not a one-off trick. This was a development path. A legal one. A path other teams were already beginning to study. That is when the story becomes bigger than Ferrari versus Mercedes. Because in a regulation reset, the team that finds the best interpretation can define the direction of the entire grid. If everyone copies you, you become the reference. But if another team finds the loophole you missed, the championship can tilt away from you before you even fully realize it. Ferrari had found something Mercedes did not. That alone is enough to create tension. But Ferrari was not finished. The wing was only the visible part of the attack. The second part was hidden deeper, inside the power unit regulations. Before the season had fully settled, Ferrari, along with other manufacturers, raised concerns about the way Mercedes' compression ratio was being measured. The issue was not that Mercedes had been found cheating. That is important. The problem was more subtle. The rule limited compression ratio, but it was measured under cold conditions. Rivals believed Mercedes had found a way to benefit from thermal expansion at racing temperatures, allowing the engine to behave more aggressively once it was hot. That sounds complicated, but imagine a door that fits perfectly when it is cold, then expands slightly when the room heats up. The measurement looked legal in one condition, but rivals believed the real performance appeared in another. Ferrari pushed the issue. The governing body acted. From June 1st, the measurement changed. The engine would have to comply under both hot and cold conditions. And from the following season, the measurement would move fully toward real operating conditions. That was not just a technical adjustment. It was a direct hit to Mercedes' early season advantage. Because even if Mercedes had operated legally under the rules as written, the rules were now tightening around the interpretation they had used. That is one of the most painful things that can happen to a team. You build a clever advantage. You defend it. You rely on it. Then the rulebook changes in a way that reduces its value. Mercedes could not simply call it unfair and make the performance return. The battlefield had shifted. Then came the third Ferrari strike, qualifying energy deployment. Mercedes and Red Bull had been using a loophole around the motor generator kinetic system, specifically linked to the way power was reduced near the timing line at the end of a flying lap. The regulations had a safety exception. If a system shut down to protect components, the normal power reduction rule did not apply, and the system would lock out for 60 seconds. That sounds like a protective measure, but Mercedes and Red Bull found a way to use it when the lockout did not matter. By triggering a shutdown on cool-down laps, they could arrive for the next flying lap with a deployment benefit. In plain language, the safety door became a performance door. Ferrari flagged it, the governing body closed it, and suddenly another Mercedes advantage was reduced. This is the part that should make Mercedes deeply uncomfortable. Ferrari did not beat Mercedes by copying every part of the W17. Ferrari started attacking the foundations underneath it. The wing attacked straight-line efficiency. The compression ratio change attacked power unit interpretation. The qualifying directive attacked one lap energy deployment. 3 different pressure points. One target, the Mercedes advantage. That is why the early dominance no longer looks as safe as it once did. Mercedes may still have a strong car. They may still lead the championship. Antonelli may still be the driver everyone has to catch. But Ferrari has shown it can fight in more than one way. On the track, in the factory, in the wording of the rules. And that is exactly what a team like Mercedes fears, because it means the battle is no longer happening only where Mercedes is strongest. Ferrari has changed the battlefield. The next layer is where Ferrari's attack becomes even more dangerous, because it did not only take performance away from Mercedes, it changed the way Mercedes has to think. Before Ferrari's pressure started working, Mercedes could treat the season like a normal domination project. Improve the car. Protect the advantage. Let Antonelli build the championship lead. Let Russell collect heavy points. Use the W17 straight line strength and energy deployment to keep Ferrari trapped in the places where it was weakest. That was the plan. Simple, ruthless, and very Mercedes. But once Ferrari exposed the rulebook gaps, that plan became much harder to protect. Because now Mercedes was not just developing against another car. It was developing against a moving rule environment, a rival aerodynamic concept, and a Ferrari team that had learned how to turn regulations into a competitive weapon. That is a very different fight. When a rival beats you with pure pace, you know the job. You find downforce. You improve efficiency. You bring upgrades. You chase the stopwatch. But when a rival beats you by changing the meaning of the rules, the pressure becomes deeper. You start questioning which advantages are safe. You start wondering which clever interpretation could be challenged next. You start asking whether the performance you built in January will still be worth the same amount by July.